What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Talking to the Dog Benfica podcast, episode number 269, on the eve of our 6-year anniversary. Back in 2012, 24th of January, I started this podcast that we're now entering the 6th year. Parabéns ao podcast.
Parabéns para o Benfica podcast.
My name is Alfredo. I'm here with Cristiano Oliveira next to me. What's up?
Chilling, man. I mean, can't complain. The weather hasn't been brutal. So, I mean, can't complain at the moment.
Yeah, hasn't been bad. Up north in Canada, Toronto. Steve's in Toronto. And Dave de Oliveira is in Mississauga?
Hamilton,
sorry.
Hello.
it's all the same.
Close enough.
The Great White North, that's all we know.
Hey,
What's
it's
going
not
on,
white
my
anymore,
brothers?
man. It's not white. It's been raining. Most of the snow has melted, at least in Toronto. So can't complain. Just like you guys, the weather's been good for the past few days.
Yeah, that's right. So on tonight's podcast, we will look back at Benfica's game against Desportivo de Chaves at Estádio da Luz that happened this past weekend. We'll also look ahead to Benfica's next game, which only happens on Monday at the Restelo versus Belenenses. And the reason for that is because they're playing Taça da Liga, the quarterfinal or the semifinals of the Taça da Liga has been played between today and tomorrow. The first game already took place. And tomorrow we'll have the other finalists to be found between Porto and Sporting.
Setúbal won today's semifinal.
That's
now
right.
They face the winner of Porto Sporting tomorrow.
That's right. Setúbal beat Oliveirense. For those of you guys that haven't seen the result, there it is. Anyway, but this podcast is about Benfica, so let's get right into it. Benfica played Desportivo Chaves at Estádio da Luz. It was Benfica's return to Estádio da Luz. Varela was in goal. Douglas right back in lieu of André Almeida's fifth card or fifth card accumulation.
Fifth yellow card accumulation.
So Douglas was on the right, Ruben Dias and Jardel in the middle of the defense, Grimaldo on the left. Then in the midfield, the magical triangle, Fesa, Pizzi, and Krovinovic, the magical triangle that may not be anymore until the end of the season. We'll get into that. Of course, if you haven't been under a rock, you know that Krovinovic hurt himself badly, ACL tear or rupture, from what I understand. I keep on getting those confused. The rest of the forward line, Salvio on the right, Servio on the left, and Jonas up front. So Chaves comes into this game not having lost in the past 8 games, so it's going to be a difficult game for Benfica. But when you get on the score sheet in the 13th minute via Jonas, and at home, it's a bit hard to stop Benfica. The team does seem that they have a different intensity to them. They have an intensity that they look like they want to put away games. They come fast and hard in the first half, and then in the second half, there's a bit of a controlling and possession, and also some combinations that keeps the ball away from the opposing team, which is something that we have to be encouraged by. Steve, watching this Benfica throughout the season and the changes that we've had, and I know that it hasn't been all because of the 4-3-3, but certainly the 4-3-3 has something to do with it. But we reached this point, and we're looking at this Benfica, that this is probably the best football we have been playing all season.
Yeah, past 3-4 matches, I'd say, is easily the best football we've been playing all season. Just the movement off the ball is so much better. People making themselves available for the ball. You have both Jardel and Ruben Dias confident enough to play the ball forward, where earlier in the season the center backs were only playing the ball either back to the keeper or laterally to the fullbacks or to Pizzi or whoever would show up on the side. There's a lot more synergy, a lot more cohesion to our play within the past 3-4 matches compared to what we've been before. I mean, we almost look like a different team at times. If you look back how poorly we had played in I think it was September and October compared to what we've done since the year's turnaround, and maybe just a little bit before that, it's like night and day.
Yeah. Cristiano, I know that that you told me before the podcast you don't feel like talking about Benfica, but I'll let you go.
Talk NBA.
I know that we've been very critical, and I guess I'll throw this to you. I think that last year at one point, I did mention here on a podcast that Pizzi was finally coming into a role where he felt that he was the boss of this team, that he era o patrão, mexia os cordelinhos. And now he's with the emergence of Krovinovic, he's kind of had to step back into a role. Anything in your eye, any changes in your eye that sees Pizzi adapting more to this system?
I think it's more of the new responsibility that he's taken on as far as being more of a box-to-box guy rather than just a guy who just get into the open lane, get the ball, and distribute. And I think maybe that's played a little bit in his head because he's not been the same player. And I know he has moments when he still shows some of that magic that he used at times last season. But it's just, to me, he's far away from the player that he was last season. And even this game, he had spurts where he was really good with the ball, and then a lot of times he turned it over consistently. I don't know if that's just because he's worrying about where to be positionally on the defensive end. I don't know exactly what it is, but I don't think it's the Krovinovic thing. I think it's more the position.
Yeah, do you think it also has a lot to do with the fact that his instinct last season was always to build from that first touch, and now he's getting less space, so he kind of has to shift and adapt his game?
It's a lot easier to just keep getting open and finding the open spaces and getting the ball and distributing than trying to get that ball and worry at the same time. If this ball is turned over, I need to be in the right place defensively. So I'm pretty sure that's weighing on him. But I think Krovinovic was, an added player that brought a lot to this team. Another player that was able to create like Pizzi has done. But I don't know what it is exactly with Pizzi. I think it's more positionally. Steve, what do you think about that?
To be absolutely honest, I don't see too much of a difference in his role from last year to this year. Just he's more limited to the right side of the pitch than to the left.
The mindset is what I was referring to. Not so much.
If anything, the mindset. I'm beginning to worry whether he's becoming complacent. I mean, World Cup year, he shouldn't be, but it seems like sometimes the effort isn't there. If there's going to be anything that I would pinpoint, it would be that. In terms of positioning and what his duties are on the pitch, to be absolutely honest, I don't think that they've changed too much with the 4-3-3 in the most simplest ways. I mean, like he's still one of the more creative players on the team, so he still has that burden on him. He still has to always be available for the ball. That's the same reaction to losing the ball because he's in more or less the same area of the pitch. To me, all of his roles and duties have not really changed. It's I almost want to say attitude. The past few games have been better, but before that, it's not been that great.
That could be because of his role has shifted a little bit from being the guy that everyone looks to. When they get the ball, look up and find Pizzi, right?
Now there's another guy.
He's not the guy. He's got more. I mean, at least from what I see, call me blind, but I do think that his responsibilities have changed a little bit more so on the defensive side, Steve, more so than he had to in previous seasons. And maybe that's where the attitude kicks in, Steve, because I know, again, not at this level, but I would have an attitude when the ball didn't come through me. When the team wasn't building through me, when I wasn't the first option out the back, I copped an attitude at times, and my effort wasn't in there. Just like we've seen from I was going to say Steve, from Pizzi. I think it both things. I think it all combines to see the Pizzi that we've seen this season, that he looks like the Pizzi at all at times, and other times, like you said, the effort's not there. And maybe it's because his role has shifted, Steve. And that's where I keep going back to his defensive responsibilities have changed. He's a guy that really never had to focus much on the defensive side of the ball for Benfica. Now he has to kind of like, okay, instead of going forward, right, with freedom like you've had in the past, you kind of have to at times tone yourself down because Krovinovic is going to be the guy making those runs.
Yeah. And Steve, you mentioned something about Benfica trying to get the ball back, and is it me or there's a little bit at times there's a little bit of counter press going on by Benfica to get that ball back?
Well, absolutely. We've been a lot hungrier as soon as we lose the ball. Fesa has been tremendous in this. I mean, he is amazing at reading where the ball is going to come before the counterattack happens. I mean, not after the ball's already been controlled and the counterattack starts. I mean, before that guy who can control the ball and start the counterattack, he's there nipping at his heels, jumping in front of him, getting the ball, whatever the case may be, even if it's a strategic foul, the guy is there. Every outlet, the guy is there, and it's incredible. The way that we are pressing better as soon as we lose the ball, all the front guys, Servi, Salvio, Pizzi, even Jonas to an extent, has all up that intensity level when we lose the ball, which makes the outlet ball harder to make, which makes only maybe one or two areas that Fesa needs to read and go and find that ball. That might be one of the reasons that he's looking so good, but it is always a team effort. I mean, there is a huge difference for me anyway, from what I could see, in terms of intensity levels, in terms of attitude. I remember earlier in the season, I would have a comment normally on text or whatever, you can't play this game standing still. And that's what we were doing for the majority of the part, whether it was on the ball or off the ball. A lot of guys just standing around. And the past 3-4 games, that's not been the case. You see a lot of urgency, a lot of interchanging of positions, especially between the fullbacks. So the wide guys, Servi, Grimaldo, and Krovinovic, with on the one side, and Salvio, and in this game Douglas actually was quite good. If you have, which is expected.
Quite good. Wait.
Quite good going forward.
Okay.
But that's all we did, really.
There was a couple times that I don't. He tripped over himself. He crossed his feet. I don't know if he was the right foot was going left, the left foot was going right. He kind of did a half a split, trying to.
I thought he was pretty good, man.
Javan, no less.
Look, the question would have been whether the guy could attack or not. We all know the guy could attack.
Yeah. And it was a game that we were almost always an organized attack, so it was suited for him.
Right. So
look, I think just to finish this off real quick, because what Steve mentioned is 100% correct, and I think this all goes back to the Sporting game. We sat here and we talked, and we tried to predict what was going to happen in this game, how Benfica should play, and we brought up here on the podcast that depending on the outcome of that game, it could either springboard Benfica to give them more confidence and be a better team and play better like we've seen in the past. Or if they were going to get shellacked by Sporting, it was just going to be the end of the season. And we've seen Benfica came into that game, and as we all know, play spectacularly, and they've just taken off ever since then. I think that game was a tremendous boost of confidence to every single one of these players on the team, where you see, like Steve mentioned, now even the performance and the levels that these players have gone to, right? It's been night and day compared to what we've seen in first half of the season.
Yeah, there's definitely been a motivation boost mentally.
Night and day.
Yeah,
and
I think for the most part, we all know that when Benfica puts some intensity in their game, some pace in their passing, I think that the team has ease of breaking down these little teams. I think that's established. I think that the team realizes that, and I think that's all they have to do is put some pace on the play and the movement to open up those spaces. So Jonas opened up the score sheet in the 13th minute. A very good combination play. I forget who turned the ball over in the midfield. The ball ended up in Krovinovic. Krovinovic set up Jonas. Jonas just a volley into the net. No chance for the goalie. 6 minutes later, he was again finding the back of the net and putting Benfica up 2-0. So very early on, Benfica with 2-0 playing in front of a very large crowd for a game of the magnitude of the Chaves game. Nonetheless, it just shows that the fans are behind the team. The fans are starting to see an ascent by the team in form, an increase in form, and they're starting to believe that this team can get to the Tetra, despite not the Tetra, the Tetra they already got to the Penta, despite having had kind of a sputtering start, if you will. Sporting lost points over the weekend, so we're now 1 point behind Sporting with this win, this 3-0 win against Chaves. But the biggest thing out of this game, obviously, and as you guys know, Krovinovic chasing the ball in the dying minutes of the second half, gets injured by himself, right away goes to ground, grabs his knee. And when guys get hurt by themselves, you know it's bad news. We would then later find out that it was an ACL tear or rupture. And usually in injuries like this, the Benfica staff or the medical staff usually will say, well, we're going to have to reevaluate on Monday when the swelling goes down, do an MRI and see the extent of an injury. But right away, Benfica came out and said, ACL. That's it. He's done. He's done for the season. So where is this? I'll start with you, Cristiano. Where does this leave us now? This was definitely a guy that was a catalyst for some of the better play of Benfica. I know that Dave put up some stats here. Benfica with Krovinovic this season, 19 games, 12 wins, 6 draws, and 1 loss. Benfica without Krovinovic this season, 13 games, 5 wins, 1 draw, and 7 losses. Of course, 6 of those losses came from the Champions League, as he wasn't signed up for the Champions League. But what do you think the loss of Krovinovic leaves this team?
Look, I'm going to say something that you guys might not agree or a lot of people might not like, but I hope it doesn't leave us in the hands of João Carvalho. I hope that this is going to force the club to go out and bring in a quality midfielder, another guy that could kind of do the same job that he did, or get you more of a box-to-box guy, therefore freeing up a Pizzi to do that same role that Krovinovic was doing this season. It's just a bummer that this kid, who's played really well here since Benfica threw him into the lineup and injures himself. It's a bummer to see that happen. This is a kid who possibly had an opportunity to impress his bosses with the national team, possibly even making an appearance at the national team level at the World Cup. So that's out the window there. Hopefully he'll come back, be better than ever next season. But for right now, I know João Carvalho, a lot of people are excited about him, but I just don't think that's the answer. I would like to see Benfica go out and strengthen that position along with other positions that we need, because they have not done anything as far as bringing in players. All we see is players going out.
I know that Steve will somewhat disagree with you, and I'll go to Steve in a little bit. But let me
what you guys won't agree with.
let me pose this question to you. Do you think it's more beneficial for Benfica to use a guy that's been with the team since the beginning of the season, that has seen the transformation in the system, than it is to go get a guy that knows nothing about the team, knows nothing about the teammates?
Go get the better player. I want whoever the better player is, I want that player on the field. If I got to go outside and get a better player than what I have on the squad right now, this is what this team needs. This team needs players. They don't need kids who've been there all summer long, all fall long, and now, okay. Look, if João Carvalho, and I'm not saying this kid doesn't have a chance to be a really good pro, but there's a reason why he's played twice or whatever it is now on the team all season long. He couldn't get...
Agora para passar.
But let me Chris, let me cut you off, because your favorite Renato Sanchez played Jack nada. Then
October.
He came.
We're now in February. Well, almost February. October.
The concept is the same one. Played nothing.
Well, let me.
And then he showed up.
Steve, before I let you get into who the replacement should be and what your thoughts are on that, I just want to run something by Cristiano. And there's often been not an argument, but discussion between Cristiano and I in regards to these young players that get introduced to the team, that all of a sudden become these prominent figures in the team, right?
They're gone in 3 weeks.
Ederson was one of them that he got. The first game was against Sporting.
Because
Jules says he got hurt. Then we had Renato Sanchez a couple of years ago that you could argue in the same circumstances that Benfica had lost a guy and needed somebody in the midfield. So Renato Sanchez was given a chance.
Renato Sanchez was being touted as that next monster to come off of this Seychelles. I know Carvalho's been touted at times, but Renato Sanchez was like, oh my God, Benfica's got this pearl, this kid in the juveniles that's a horse. This guy, look, he might not be there football-wise yet, but physically he's going to fit in. Everybody knew at some point he was going to be a part of this team.
Yeah, and the other case was Lindelof, also a guy that was brought in as a necessity.
Tremendous necessity, and after injuries to everybody.
But do you see the similarities in the situation
I do.
right now?
I do. I absolutely do. But you asking me my opinion, if I think João Carvalho will be the player that will fill in for Krovinovic for the rest of the season, and I say no, I think Benfica needs to go out and strengthen not just that position, other positions on this field.
Steve, your thoughts on obviously we know that, look, if a guy's been working out with the team's been putting in the work, has been waiting patiently for his chance, now is his chance. Do you feel that João Carvalho is the player to carry this load, this responsibility of having to step in and not miss a beat with what the team was doing?
Within the squad, he is our best option. Like Chris is saying, you would want the club to go out and get somebody to be a like-for-like replacement, somebody who will come in playing with similar levels of fitness, similar levels of experience, game time, game fitness, whatever you want to use, whatever term you want to use, you would like that to happen. I'm not going to disagree with that, but I find it very hard to believe that we're actually going to do it. So I think whether or not the right thing to do or the thing the fans would want the club to do is to go out and buy somebody. I honestly, guys, I do not.
But Steve, you're not answering the question, though, Steve. He's not answering the question.
Yes,
you asked him his opinion. He said whether I think the club is going to do it. No, what's your opinion?
What's my opinion?
I think the club's going to do it. No, I don't think the club's going to do it. What do you think should be done? That's the question. That's what I want to know.
João Carvalho is what I would
he didn't. He's answering.
He said right now he's the most capable.
João Carvalho is the most capable within our squad.
So do you want that position strengthened? I'm not asking you.
There's positions that for me are more important than that one.
Okay.
Really?
So you still think, even though he's the best option on the roster right now, you still think they should go out and get someone a bit level higher than João Carvalho is at the moment.
And I don't think we have the money.
It doesn't have to be like for like. It doesn't have to be like for like because you can get a box to box that frees up Peasy. It doesn't have to be like for like.
I don't think that's like saying, oh, I want them to go buy Messi. Honest to God, I don't think there's money to go out and buy anybody. Honestly, I'm being dead honest. To buy somebody that's going to come in and play in the 11, I do not think we have the money to do it.
Right. So
that's why I think João Carvalho.
Do you think we have the 20 million to spend, or do you think it's just the club's approach?
Who needs 20 million? You look at a club like Sporting, for example, arch rivals, crosstown rivals, right? Who we could argue had the best roster in the league this year, right? They go out and go get a kid not a kid, he's 30 years old, from Rio Ave, who comes in, is inserted into the starting lineup. You telling me that Rafinha Guimarães, you telling me that there's a players in the Portuguese league that can't jump into the roster right now, into the starting 11? No, nobody. Okay.
I think
from the smaller teams, I was thinking.
By the way, when Benfica played Evangelista, roll back the tape. I told you that kid was special. Now let's go back to this.
Was it Marítimo, left-footed guy?
No, lady. Studio.
Yeah,
the midfield, right? The guy from Udinese, the guy that's on loan.
He's on loan from Udinese.
Yeah, he's on loan. I remember, roll back that tape, and I told you this kid's a good player, man. I'm surprised it's important. Now, I just want to answer this, and I promise I'll be quiet after this. I'm sick and tired of people. Now, it's just a me thing, right? I'm tired of people going back. Oh, because Benfica, it worked with Renato Sanchez, and it worked with Lindelof, and look, guys, pay attention to me, man.
We got a good track record.
Pay attention to me and learn something from me, right? If it was that easy, Barcelona would still be throwing out gems every single week like they used to. It ain't that easy, guys. And they got better players. And they got more money to go get the best players around the world at that age. And even Barcelona's having a tough time. They have to go out and spend $150 million on play to strengthen that squad. Not even the Barcelonas of the world could do it. So stop, because I could just go back and be Barcelona fan like Steve is. But we did it with Messi. We did it. Oh, we did it with the Fabregas.
Chris, I have no idea where you're going.
It just
because I have no idea where you're going. Two complete different realities.
Exactly. If it happened before, doesn't mean that it's bound to happen just because it happened before. That's all I'm saying.
Well, there's a possibility because of the trend.
There's a possibility I hit the lotto.
Not if you haven't hit it before.
but there's been plenty of people like myself who hit it.
What I'm saying is that this situation has all the makings, and it mirrors really.
I hope it does.
Situations that we've seen in the past with these guys that went on.
I hope it does. But you asked me my opinion, and I can only answer on my opinion. And my opinion is that, look, I would rather Benfica go out and get someone that I know I could count on week in, week out. That's it.
Okay, so let me rephrase the question in this matter. You currently looking at the roster that Benfica has, okay? Who do you see stepping into that position?
It's the guy that everyone's been talking about for the last 3 weeks. It's been.
Is he your choice?
I guess he'd be. I guess he'd be my choice. There's not like Benfica has got many choices this season on this team. All we keep doing is subtracting the few other depth players we have. We haven't brought in nobody to this roster. This roster has been an absolute embarrassment all year long, with the exception of the last month and a half. Right? Our squad is very thin. And I understand we have good young players, and I understand João Carvalho might have a bright future ahead of him, and this might well be his chance. I'm not saying that he's going to go there on the guy. I'll forget about it. He's going to be an absolute bum. You're going to regret it. My answer, what I'm telling you is my opinion. When you asked me, would I go basically with João Carvalho, with anyone on the roster? You didn't mention João Carvalho. You said with anyone on the roster, or I'd go out and get someone else. That was my answer.
But the thing is, where Steve is coming from, Steve has this feeling and certain things that he's seen and certain things that he's read.
Steve's not answering the question. Steve is feeling that the club won't go out. That's not the question.
Let me tell you where Steve is coming from. Steve's train of thought is, in logic, is Steve has read things. Because Steve and I have had this conversation. Steve has read things, and he's seen things that leads him to believe that Benfica has no money. So contrary to the 20 million that Luis Felipe Vieira said he was going to have,
didn't we read that?
We read that Steve feels that Benfica doesn't have money to go get a player of that caliber that can come in and play. Steve's opinion is that look at the buys that we've done so far. These have been buys at very little money, guys that are investments for the future, and he doesn't feel that Benfica has the type of money to bring in a high caliber player that could just come in and be a starter.
I think that there's players throughout the world football that you could get for $2-3 million that you don't have to spend $20 million. That will start right now in this Benfica. Dude, I'd have to sit there and look, but look, that kid Evangelista will be an upgrade over João Carvalho. That's dimension one.
If he played it,
you can't get him, but you probably can't get him for like, I don't know. I don't even know how much it would take to get him. But still, there's plenty of players, guys. Here's Carvalho is going to be a good player, but I'm not sure he's there yet. Maybe he proves me wrong.
You wouldn't give the keys to the car, to the Cadillac, to Carvalho,
especially when there's a Penta on the line and the rest of the team. Like Steve said before, and I started off by, there's so many other options, so many other positions on the field that are weak. This is not a strong Benfica starting 11.
But there's only one competition left. It's very hard to justify going out and investing in a patchwork type player when you only have the one competition. I know it's the Penta. We still have Zivkovic. We still have Rafa.
We're talking about an interior guy, dude.
Dude, here's my thing. They're not going to spend money. They're just not. Yeah. Okay. So Maris is going to play. More than likely, which is what I don't want to see, but more than likely,
right?
You're going to get somebody that's more box-to-box guy.
Right. So if you had to choose,
PC will free up.
If you had to choose on the options that we have, you go with Carvalho. Cristiano, I don't think you're too far from that, but
the options on the roster right now, that'd be my option. But again, if I had the choice and I could go outside and get someone else, I'd absolutely get someone else.
Right.
And again, it doesn't have to be a patchwork job, Steve. It doesn't have to be a guy that you hire for 6 months. It could be a guy that obviously Benfica is out of the business of getting 28 and 29-year-old Steve. So it'd be someone in 22 to 24 years that could possibly next season, if PZ keeps up this performance, could step up, and you push Speezy aside and a guy that you have a bright future ahead, in line for. Doesn't necessarily have to be a guy that's in for 6 months and then sayonara.
Let me give you some stats on João Carvalho. What João Carvalho has done this season. He's played 2 times for the Benfica B team, so 2 appearances. Has been in the starting 11 twice. Champions League versus Basel, which is a game basically almost nothing to play for, really. And then the Taça da Liga game against Setúbal, another game with nothing to play for. So at this point, and even though he's getting the chances, can we read from Vitoria's actions towards João Carvalho, how he rates João Carvalho. Does he feel that he's ready to start, being that he gave him these minutes on these games that really didn't count for anything? 3 appearances as a sub in the league. Last season, 15 appearances playing for Setúbal, scored 1 goal against Porto. If you remember, that was probably the goal that gave us the Tetra. 24 appearances last season for Benfica B, scoring 8 goals. And again, that was in the first half of the season because he transferred to Vitória Setúbal in the winter transfer. Look, there's a lot of expectations here in regards to João Carvalho and to what João Carvalho can do. To me, obviously, the Cinderella story, you're always hoping for a Cinderella story. You're always hoping that these kids have been prepared enough, and regardless of their young age, they could step in and make a difference because they have a coach that believes in their talent, whether he has been given significant minutes throughout the season or not. There's obviously a belief that a coach counts on these kids regardless of not having playing that many minutes. I agree with both Steve and Cristiano. I think that if Benfica has the money, they should go to the market and get it. And I think that for us to play the closest to how we have been playing so far, I think João Carvalho is the best choice. So anyway,
guys, just throwing out another option there. How about going back to 4-4-2, inserting Seferovic right above Jonas, and then you have Pizzi playing kind of the role that he played last season. It's a World Cup year. Seferovic is looking for more time. Pizzi's looking to get into better form, and that was the best he played in it since he's been with Benfica, was the way he was playing last year in that 4-4-2 role. They played it at the beginning of the season already. Seferovic has some good chemistry there with Jonas, scored 7 goals already this season. It's another option there as well.
Dave, that might as well be what they ultimately do, switch back to the 4-4-2.
I don't discount that option.
Not just Seferovic, Jimenez is also a guy that's looking to impress to make the Mexican World Cup spot.
Right.
So both guys will be hungry for playing time and for goals.
Look, and here's a couple things that I'll throw out on both players. Seferovic, we had heard that Seferovic usually has a very good start of the season and then he tails off, which is so far has been representative of his appearances at Benfica, or his history at Benfica. Jimenez, on the other hand, has a history of having very good last months of the season. February is usually traditionally a good month for Jimenez, and then he kind of brings that super sub attitude into the rest of the season, as we know. So there's arguments to be made for both guys. I think that the 4-4-2 is definitely a viable option if we can find a solution that will keep us playing the way we've been playing with the 4-3-3. Maybe we abandon that and we go back to the 4-4-2. But here's the thing, right? So in the middle of the season, we changed to the 4-3-3. There was some changes that needed to take place. Guys learning new things, positioning, so on and so forth. And now we're going to change again. So that's to me that's the biggest question. But I'm not discounting the fact that 4-4-2 option may be there. But to me, we stick with what's been working right now. We just need to make sure that we find a piece where the level is going not to be a huge drop off.
But look, we only switched to the 4-3-3 to get Krovinovic on the field because he's shown that he was that important, and he's been key in Benfica's turnaround here so far. So since Krovinovic is no longer around,
quite possible.
It's very possible that he goes back to a 4-4-2.
Regardless of the 4-3-3, I mean, when you boil it all down, Benfica has played their best football with Krovinovic on the field, whether it's 4-3-3 or it's 4-4-2. So, anyway,
if everything else stays the same, if the guys are still working as hard as they are, if it's important to everybody off the ball to be an option for the person who has the ball, regardless of the formation, we will play better, or at least better than what we did in the first part of the season, regardless if it's 4-4-2 or 4-3-3. I think honestly, my gut tells me he's going to put Samaris in it and see if he could work it so that Pizzi plays a little bit further up the pitch and in that in between lines role more and closer to Jonas. That's the way I think he's going to try to originally. That's his thought process for Monday's game.
More of like a 4-2-1-3.
Could be.
Like
4-2-3. Something for the basic same principles of what we're doing now. Just you just want to see Pizzi further up the pitch more often than constructing areas. We'll see what happens, though. It's hard to read. It's really hard to read. Somebody said against Belenenses, who are tanking. I think Domingos got fired or is about to get fired or something. I read. It's not going to tell you much anyway. You know what I mean? It's not a litmus test versus Belenenses, if you ask me.
No, it's not a litmus test. But by the same token, we need to keep winning to stay with the.
For sure. But we could win the match not playing well and have to go back to the 4-4-2 or try the 4-3-3 again without really having any real answers on what the right way to go forward is what I'm saying.
4-4-2, 4-3-3. I don't give a damn. Benfica needs to go out and strengthen this goddamn roster. Next season, only the top two make the Champions League. Benfica needs the strength. Whatever. That's what I mean. Next.
Yeah.
After this season. Benfica cannot. I mean, God forbid, we want to win the Penta. That's the obvious. That's the obvious thing here. I want to win the Penta. We've never done it. Only one club in the history of the competition in Portugal has done it, and that's FCP. I want to accomplish that. But more importantly than that, Benfica they might fall out of the champ. Think about how hard it's going to be. They're already not making money. They're selling any player that shows any type of promise. What's going to happen when you're not even getting those Champions League 15 million just to get in?
No,
it's Benfica needs to strengthen. Forget about coming from within. If the players were there, Benfica wouldn't be in the scenario that they're in now. Go out and strengthen. We need to strengthen. We can't even finish outside. I can't believe I'm talking about this nonsense. We can't finish outside the top two. We want to win the freaking title, but God forbid that doesn't happen. We need to be in the top two.
Yeah, Cristiano, 7 days left. Make your call to Luis Flifiera. Get that going. Anyway, if there's anything, so we shall see what happens and what happens against Belenenses on Monday. But if there's any solace to take from this, is the fact that the team is going to have 9 days between the last game and the game on Monday against Belenenses to work out a few things. Let's not forget that Keaton Parks could always be an option also. So I mean, but still, I get what Cristiano was saying in regards to putting and I don't want to say a burden, but that type of a responsibility on a young player.
Look, I like Keaton, but how could I fathom sitting here talking about let's play Keaton Parks, right? When he's not even getting called up in João Carvalho, that's just kind of like stepping over him. I don't see that happen.
Yeah. So we'll now turn our attention to the Belenenses game that comes up this Monday. As I mentioned, Monday, 9 p.m. Belenenses is currently 11th with 5 wins, 5 ties, and 9 losses. At home, 4 wins, 3 ties, and 2 losses. They have a very stingy defense at home, allowing only 7 goals. I think that's 5th best home record, of allowing goals at the Restelo. As far as head-to-head, Belenenses and Benfica head-to-head, I think, let me just see here, 244 games between the two, 140 wins for Benfica, 46 draws, and 58 losses. Last 10, 9 wins, 1 draw for Benfica. Last 5 at Estádio do Restelo, 5 wins for Benfica. Earlier in this season, Benfica won 5-0 at the Luz. Jonas scored the hat-trick. Salvio and Seferovic in his prime wrapped up the tally sheet there. It's by no means can we look at this, Steve, and think this is a trap game just because Belenenses, despite their struggles, they're in 11th place, so they're not really at this point in danger of going down. But there is some turmoil, as you mentioned, with Domingos being heavily questioned. That club has also been undergoing some things where the SAD doesn't always see eye to eye with the people that are running the club. So there's a few challenges that they're faced with. Nonetheless, they haven't been doing all that bad this season if they're 11th place. So we'll see. to me, I think that as a fan, you gotta. It's with great anticipation that you see where the team goes, and I think that following Krovinovic's injury, there was a lot of heads that hung down on social media, and I was talking to my dad again yesterday, and he mentioned that that Krovinovic we sorely missed. There's guys saying out there goodbye to the Penta now that Krovinovic is gonna look. I wouldn't go that far, but I'm curious to see how Benfica is going to move on from this Krovinovic injury. I'm pretty sure that there will be some kind of a remembrance by the players. I remember when Salvio first got hurt, they brought out Salvio's jersey and they kind of played for Salvio. And I'm pretty sure that Krovinovic has the type of a character that he's very well liked in the team. He seems like a good guy, and I think that the team is going to rally in his favor, if you will. So we'll just have to see. Monday is the game, and now that we need to keep pace, especially with the Sporting Porto Sporting game looming for the league. I know that they played themselves like 5 or 6 times coming up, but that game is coming up, and we need to keep pace in order to be able to get some points from either one or the other. So that will be it for the game that happens this Monday, Christian.
Just a correction on that. I knew it wasn't sounding right because I actually thought it was Petit, but I knew Belenenses had a new coach. I was wrong. It's Silas. Silas is a new coach at Belenenses.
Oh, okay.
Things already did get fired. You're right.
Yeah, because I'm sitting here like, I'm thinking, isn't it Petit? But no,
I did see Silas, and I apologize for not retaining that, but I did see Silas, a picture of Silas being introduced, and Silas is not too far removed from the playing pitch, to be honest with you. Anyway, talking about far removed, great news, Cristiano. Filipe Augusto going to Turkey on an 18-month loan.
You might need him now.
I actually thought you weren't going to make the pod because I knew you wanted to take him to the airport.
No, you actually might need him now. I mean, now he might be a suitable option.
I still take Carvalho over Filipe Augusto anytime.
I mean, you're that's fine, but I mean, I just think it takes balls to sit off a guy that you've seen play twice. But that bums a lot.
Right.
Filipe Augusto looked good too prior to coming to Benfica, and so did Danilo, and so did all the other clowns that came and became busts.
Yeah,
just want to throw that out there.
27 appearances in the past. Is that Filipe Augusto?
Yeah, Filipe Augusto, no goals.
27 appearances in the past 2 seasons.
Year and a half. He came in. Yeah, year and a half.
Last January.
He came in as
not even a year and a half. Then it's been a year.
The replacement for Danilo.
Who made his one.
Danilo left and he came. But Danilo looked good against us.
Yep.
He has looked good in that Braga team. It's not the first Braga game that I've watched, and he played well. I think he played well.
Comes down to confidence.
Yeah.
Even a couple of years ago when he was at Braga against us, he looked pretty robust and not bad on the ball as well. I remember making a comment about him on this podcast. I don't know if we're going to go there, but has that Umaro or whatever his name is actually been confirmed that it's done, or
Umaro Embalo?
Umaro, that's the one.
Umaro.
No, Umaro. There was a lot of talks, but nothing
done.
I mean, they definitely had pictures of Aurelias in his private jet over there landing in
20
Leipzig.
All right, Christian, let me get your thoughts, and I think that it's always interesting to get your thoughts in regards to this.
Fascinating.
Umaro Embalo, 16 years old, 20 million.
It's a lot of money. And I know people have justified it on Twitter. I went off on a little rant last week on Twitter, and I know people justified it. It's great money, 20 million for a kid that's not even a part of the A team, and who's to say he's ever going to become a player, yada yada yada. But still, these are the types of players, and this happened with your boy. I mean, you and Steve are still.
Well, he's a little older,
but
and he had made a debut for the
played 10 minutes. Played 10 minutes to 18, but it's kind of look. I want these guys to play at Benfica for 2 seasons, 3 seasons minimum. And then I understand if these guys develop to that level and you want to go ahead and make that bank off of, go ahead for it. But it stinks, man. It hits me right here, right in the chest when you look at a kid that, they've been talking this kid up as a prodigy, as the kid that's, the next Cristiano Ronaldo, all these fantastic things about this kid. And I understand it's tough to turn down 20 million from a guy that's basically a lottery ticket, a guy that you're not sure if he's ever going to make it. But what if he does make it? We're losing out on a player that you could potentially turn around and sell for 50, 60, 70 million later on. And you get to miss those years at the Benfica and wearing our shirt and putting smiles on our faces and making the fans stand up and start to lose. And yeah, we'll still all be out there all proud, like, yeah, he made us say Shaw, but he never played on my club. It's kind of like I laugh at Sporting all these years, sitting out there and throwing out Figo and Cristiano Ronaldo. It's fantastic play, but what those players ever went for those clubs? Nothing. They never, but those guys at least wore the shirt. Different times, I understand. But I want to see these guys be successful at Benfica and win titles. So then I could be proud of my players and say, yo, these guys came from Benfica. They helped us win. I seen this kid in his first game, and kind of like what we do with Ederson and even Renato to a certain extent. He left way early. It's hard, man. It's hard to see that happening at a club like Benfica, man. It sucks, but we've become a sellers club. That's what we are.
There's a graphic out there, and I think I emailed you guys about Benfica being the top seller in the past, I want to say
10 years.
10 years. Where's that money's gone? Nobody knows, because that debt has barely come down. But I don't think a lot of people are going to argue what you're saying, Cristiano. I think that players like this, they should at least, at minimum, play 1 year with the A team before the.
And I still think minimum 1 year is just too little. But
yeah,
whatever. I mean, it's better than nothing. It just sucks that you look at a kid like this and your hopes. You get your hopes up and you're thinking about this kid could be the face of your organization and the face of the Nationals, yada, yada. And then they leave at 16 years old, man. I mean, it's bad enough that we're selling guys that are on an A team and we get to see them for 1 season, too, with the Renatos, the Lindelofs, the Edersons. And now we're doing it with young kids.
Yeah, I mean, CJ Santos, Dos Santos, that is a friend of the pod. He had very good thing. He has seen Umaro Embalo. I think he has played with him, and he had very good things to say about this Embalo kid. He thought that he was very impressive, perhaps one of the most impressive players he's seen at that level.
Anywhere.
Those are the words from CJ. So. We have to think that if somebody's willing to give him 20 million, that obviously there's traits and qualities that have been recognized that this kid has. As Cristiano mentioned, who knows if he's going to be the next greatest thing once he gets to the peak? We don't know. From 16 or 17 to the time that 22, 23, a lot happens. There's a lot of outside influences that could change the way you behave, that your approach to the game. And as you know, just having raw talent is not enough. You got to have the head. You got to be a hard worker. So raw talent may get you through from U11s to U16s, but after that, the game becomes a lot more intricate, because now you're not beating up on the kids that you're bigger and faster than. Now you got kids that are just as big and just as fast as you when you get into the later stages of your formation. So we'll just have to see. I mean, it's a shame if he does sell him. I know that it's good business, but look, as a Benfiquista, stuff.
It's one thing, right? You sit here and you start to ponder, you start to think these things in your head. And bro, I try not to come here on the podcast and be negative, and I want to be uplifting. I want to be excited, and I'm excited at the way the team has looked over the last couple of weeks, and there's a lot of positives there. But then you start looking at the BS that's going on off the field, and you look at the BS that's going on with, now you get 16-year-olds that are being sold for 20 million. And then the thing that it bothers me, and that's the thing I can't let go, and that's why it's hard to have that positive attitude, is you're selling anyone that shows any type of promise. So you're robbing me of that privilege of watching these guys where, Camisola Glorioso, man, I'm missing. I'm never going to have that in my memory bank, right? And then you look at the freaking debt, and it never moves. It never freaking moves. If it moved, and I'm pretty sure millions of other Benficans saw that goddamn thing coming down, it'd be easy to swallow, like, man, it sucks, bro. Like, oh, man, I wish I had Umaro for the next 5 years and Bernardo and all these fantastic players, man. But you know what? We're almost out of debt, guys. It's a process. We're on the way there, man. Pretty soon, we're not going to have to sell these guys. We can afford these guys. But then you look at the goddamn debt, and it doesn't move.
Yeah.
Look, so then it's hard. It's hard to accept. And I hate talking about this, especially when an article comes out and it's news, because as you know, and Steve, I've talked about this off the air for months. I mean, I'm not making this up. I'm not piggybacking off of somebody's article. I felt the same way for years now. And it sucks to see our talented kids go away. And I'm tired of reading about this goddamn Seychelles. When these kids don't come up to the 18, yeah, you get 1, 2, 3, but you're selling everyone. And then when you're looking at at least you try to put a positive spin on it. You're like, okay, it's understanding. It's a process, guys. The debt doesn't go down.
Yeah.
How are you going to swallow that as a Benfiquista?
Look, I don't pretend to know everything that goes on with Benfica financially. We do know that there was a significant investment made in infrastructures and Seychelles and among other things, and there was a lot of debt that Benfica had to pay down. But that Pasivo remains all the way up there. Benfica number 2, just behind Manchester United, and most.
Man United can make that payment in one day, though, if they want.
Most indebted team in all of Europe. So we'll just have to see. Steve, did you have anything to say? I know that Cristiano's been doing a lot of talking.
On that topic, if this is even being discussed, it's because we need the money, and that's whether it's to pay a loan that's coming up soon or whatever the case may be. That is basically saying, okay, here's a $5 lottery ticket. We're going to pay $100 for it, and we'll take it because we think that's the lottery ticket that's going to win the millions. That's what it comes down to. That's one of this rumor is one of the major factors for me believing that we do not have the financial power to go out and buy somebody for the 11 in January. I mean, we don't have the muscle to go to whichever club that it may be and say, listen, we need this guy. We're going to pay whatever you want for him, and he's going to come and he's going to make a difference. That's one of the reasons.
Steve, or they do have some money, right? And maybe a sell like this of this kid is not driven by the fact that they don't have that money to go get 1 or 2 players in the trend. Hold on, Steve. I'm gonna make a point.
I know where you're going.
Maybe it's just driven by goddamn George Mendes' agents as well and commissions.
He's not George Mendes, so this guy.
Okay, but whatever. I'm pretty sure whoever his agent is going to get a cut.
He's another money hungry jerk. Yeah,
that's the same dude that from Bruma. You remember the Bruma fiasco?
Yeah, of course. Sporting, and he wound up with
It's the same dude.
It could be driven by age. Look, here's the thing. And somebody put this on Twitter on my little thread, and they're right, because I had heard this over the summer. I'm pretty sure I mentioned it on a podcast at some point. There's rumors that he doesn't want to sign. He doesn't want to sign a professional contract with Benfica. So if that's the case, have the club come out and say that. But and not just say that to shut us up. But if that's the case, it's like an Arsenal type of thing. We're gonna get Mkhitaryan and get nothing. So might as well just get something in return. It's kind of like the same situation. Get 20 million, right? Or wind up over the summer losing the kid for nothing. That's kind of a little bit easy to swallow, and it sucks that Benfica wasn't able to convince because his father supposed was swayed by Barcelona, Real Madrid, and all these Manchester, all these big sharks were swirling around and offering him money, and so maybe that'll be a little bit easy to swallow. But in a sick way, that's kind of like what I'm hoping, that Benfica really didn't want to sell him, but they had no choice. They're gonna wind up losing him, so 20 million is better than nothing. But if that's not the case, man, everything I said prior stands. I mean, I stand behind that. It sucks.
Yeah. There's a lot of influence by the agents. I'm sure there's a lot of pressure by the agent on both the player and the club. So, it is what it is. And agents are in there for themselves, high commission, so on and so forth. So,
but in other news, though, Benfica apparently has this kid that's playing in this under-17 tournament that's going on somewhere around the world right now. Now, he's 15 years old. Ronaldo, Romario, or something like that.
Hugo Nunes.
No, Ronaldo, Umaro, something like. The kid's like 2 years younger than everybody else, and he's the best player in the tournament by far. So that's the next kid that'll be sold for 25 million to someone else in 2 years.
He's from Angola or Africa.
I don't care. He plays at Benfica. I don't care where he's from.
Yeah, he's those kids that we're not really sure how well they
Madonna's kids?
No. And that's about it. Cristiano, do you know what Ronaldo told the doctor when the doctor said, "How many stitches do you want?" Do you know what he told the doctor?
No, but I could just imagine where this is headed.
He said 1 more than Messi.
I thought it was going somewhere.
Anyway, that is all we got for this week. As I mentioned in the beginning of the podcast. The podcast will turn 6 years old tomorrow. So a big milestone for us here. We're very proud of.
Steve's crying, shedding a tear.
We're very proud of the path that we have taken. It's been a labor of love. There's been a lot of people involved in this podcast, and even Steve. He came in. He wasn't here in the beginning, if you could believe it. Cristiano is only about three years old into this. But it's been quite a journey. And look,
if we were forced to peso, you guys needed to build up the bankroll to bring me in. So
and look, I think that there's quite a few projects out there that are popping up. Benfica FM, which is a podcast about Benfica in Portuguese, is something that has popped up recently. Conversas a Benfica from our friend Sergio Engracia has also been another project, and I think that all these projects, also Brian's podcast, the Benfiquista podcast, all these projects that bring different things about the club and that you can enjoy listening to on the club only, enrich all of us fans of Benfica that are looking to feed that hunger that we have about Benfica and about the club and so on and so forth. So I just wanted to say that we're very proud of the path that we have taken. We will continue doing this because, after all, it's for the love of the club, and that never really dies. We did mention a couple of weeks ago that there was only one way that we would stop this podcast, and I think many of you guys remember that. But nonetheless, we're here. We are encouraged by the projects that have been popping up, but we also very encouraged by all the support that we've received, by all the relationships, albeit some of them virtual, some of them not so virtual, of people that have come together because they share the podcast in common, because they're part of the Twitter family. And it makes me very happy to have established and to have formed relationships and friendships, really good friendships, with people that I've met throughout the pod, Steve being one of them, Peggy, also Peggy from halfway around the world or all the way around the world. And having to meet Peggy and some of the other people that we've met through the pod, it's been a great trip, and we'll keep on going. So I just wanted to leave that out there.
It's a lot of fun to be a part of this podcast. I enjoy coming on here and getting into my little squabbles with Chalkboard Steve up there in the White North and the whole nine, and interacting with everyone on Twitter. It's fantastic. But Alfredo, none of this would have been possible without you, man. So, we really need to thank you. Forget the podcast. It's you. You're the brains behind all this. You're the one that put this all together. This was your baby, your dream. And without you, without you going off with the culhões and turning on the mic and shaking in your boots, there wouldn't have been no Steve, Peggy, and Timo, and so many other people. It's too many of you guys to name. Obviously, we knew each other from our playing days way back in the day. So whether you had the podcast or not, we still would have known each other. But the rest of these guys, I think I want to say, on their behalf, I want to thank you. And it's been a pleasure being side by side with you here. Sometimes talking some real, positive stuff. Some other times just gibberish. But you're the man that makes it all work. And I think in honor of the podcast turning 6 years old tomorrow, I think Steve should go on these Benfica FMs and go out and speak and give an interview in Portuguese. I think that'd be tremendous. He'd be promoting the podcast. What do you think?
That would be a real treat.
That'd be true. That's like the best way to celebrate.
It's funny because I was listening to the first podcast that I ever did, and at that time, and listening to the news, talking about transfers that never happened, by the way. And one of the things was we had just lent Oblak to Union Lydia. That's how far the first podcast goes. So
another guy who really played 13 games in the squad and we sold for 20.
And the thing is that we've been alive. The podcast has been alive for 6 years, and 4 of those years we've been champions. So it's a very good omen, I guess. Where we haven't.
Let's see. If that's a good one, or if Dave is the bad luck charm here. You know what I mean? Hey, Dave, pressure's on you, Dave.
No. So thank you very much for checking us out, guys. And thank you for all of you guys that have supported us, that have turned us on to other people that didn't know about us in one way, shape, or form. I know that there's a very a very good group of people on Twitter that follow us. But outside of Twitter, there's even a larger group of people that take the time to download this podcast and listen to this podcast every week. And for that, I thank everyone, and from all of us, thank you. So don't forget to check out our friends over at planetbenfica.co. planetbenfica.co.uk. I was going to go into Chris's Twitter. Chris, you can find him on Twitter at 10co10. Steve at Steve Santo 6. David's not on Twitter, but if you need to pass a message to Dave,
DM me. I'll give you his phone number.
Send it to Cristiano. Yeah, send it to Cristiano. He's my representative.
Anyway, thanks everybody. Next week we'll be back on Tuesday. We will break down the Belenenses game, and we'll look ahead to Benfica's next game after the Belenenses. So thank you very much. See you again next week. See you, everybody.
Bye.
Ciao.